Hi folks, Pastor Steve Herring again here. We are taping two back-to-back Bible studies, and this one is to be released around the 14th of April, but we are taping it on the 7th of April because on the 14th, when this is released, I will be at the beach. And so I just wanted to let you know that. Now, let's go ahead and start this second half of the study with a word of prayer. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I do thank you and I do praise you for the privilege of bringing us before your word for a moment of peace and quiet in our lives in which we can open the Bible and just look at what it says. And let your amazing and powerful word speak to our hearts and guide us through any challenges that we may face. Open our hearts, Lord, to the abundance of your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. And so we have been engaged in a verse-by-verse, chapter-by-chapter exposition of the book of Revelation. When we're done, we'll have saved to YouTube here, golly, the whole book of Revelation. That's going to be neat because we finished 7 chapters at this point. And now we are looking at chapter 8, which is the opening of the 7th seal and the falling of Wormwood upon earth, which we will be looking at now. I will start by reading the entire chapter, which is 13 verses long. Revelation chapter 8. When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. And another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to mingle with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense rose with the prayers of the saints from the hand of the angel before God. And then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, voices, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets made ready to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, which fell on the earth, and 1/3 of the earth was burnt up, and 1/3 of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. 1/3 of the living creatures in the sea died, and 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on 1/3 of the rivers and on the fountains of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. 1/3 of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the water because it was made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, so that 1/3 of their light was darkened, and 1/3 of the day was kept from shining, and likewise 1/3 of the night. I looked, And I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew in mid-heaven. Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth at the blasts of the other trumpets, which the three angels are about to blow. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. An amazing text. And one that we're going to take a little time here to examine. This is, again, illustrating for us the patterns, the rhythm of the hardships that we experience. When we experience hardship of any kind at all, anything that might happen to us in our lives, any form of misfortune, any form of discontent, of pain, suffering, sorrow, misery, whatever, any form of it, when it happens, we tend to see it and feel it like total chaos, right? Here we are on a really pretty evening in Pine Tops, North Carolina, looking out the window of the parlor. I can just see a little bit of the sky. It's still light outside. This room is phenomenally beautiful. It is peaceful. It is orderly. I see upon the wall opposite me the faces of three of the great pastors who served in this place, going all the way back to the 1930s. Anytime I'm in this church, I'm intensely aware of the history of this place and the people who labored here, who brought the Word of God to the citizens of this community over the years. It's beautiful. It's just a beautiful place. And it's orderly. And order is what we crave in our hearts and minds and lives. Order. We need order. We don't like chaos. We don't like disorder. Now, a certain amount of disorder just creeps into our lives. Our homes become disorderly. Our cars become disorderly. Our situations, our relationships, ourselves, their disorder just creeps in. And when it does, we tend sometimes to be upset with the disorder. What this book is doing is helping us, it is designed to help us see the order in the disorder. That by virtue of our identity as conscious human beings, created in the image of the Almighty, by virtue of who and what we are, we belong to an order within the disorder. See, the universe is deeply disorderly. It's swirling masses of chaos, swirling black holes and quasars and stars and all these things that, sunspots and all the swirling storms of chaos. And down here on this planet, we have storms of various kinds, and we have social upheavals and political turmoil and changes of things that we don't like, and all kinds of trouble. Swirling chaos. Build a nice building and get yourself a really beautiful building and make it just as orderly as you can be, and then look in the corner and there's termites, or there's a mouse, or whatever, because this is the dynamic of life. And the point is to be able to see the order in the chaos, and not to be just convinced by the chaos in such a way that we just give up and give ourselves over to the forces of chaos. We've got to keep our faith. And our faith is in the order within the disorder. That's what our faith is. It's seeing through the disorder to the order, which is the order of who and what we are as children of God. And that's what's in this chapter. So the Lamb opened the seventh seal. Now this takes us back to chapter 5, a scroll written in front and behind, a scroll written and sealed with 7 seals. Now this scroll with the 7 seals is a representative symbol of the totality of the grace of God and the love of God within and through the totality of earthly chaos. Now, that all by itself is like, what? What did he just say? What did he just say? Okay, the totality, infinite quality of the love of God in Jesus Christ. The absolute, unlimited nature of love. Within, embodied in, and contained in, encapsulated in the totality of chaos. And that's it's like a great seed, or like a great little, I don't know what, a cosmic egg, you could say, with the chaos on the outside and the love and light and order on the inside. So in other words, when trouble comes, we have love within it. It's like silver linings and our clouds. Same thing. Okay, so the Lamb opened the 7th seal. Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. The Lamb opened the 7th seal, and there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Half an hour of silence. Half an hour of silence. That takes us back to something I said in the previous study about the calm before the storm. That you have moments of silence and then moments of turmoil and tribulation. So this vision begins with silence. It begins with silent reflection. And that silence is just such a good thing for us. And it's just a simple reminder, really, that when we can, it is good to be silent and just to reflect. The silence of reflection. Silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Remember, 7 again is a symbol of perfect blessing. 7 is a very fortuitous number, a very lucky number, a number of good fortune, a number of blessing. And another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer. Now, a censer is an incense holder. It's like a ball with a lid that opens, and inside it are hot coals, and upon the hot coals is incense burning, so the smoke comes through holes in the top of the censer. There's a chain, and you can swing it on the end of a chain, and as you swing it, the smoke of the incense rises. It's a priestly symbol. It's a priestly symbol for the Hebrews, but it's also a priestly symbol for the Greeks who would have read this. Another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to mingle with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar before the throne. The prayers of the saints are rising like the smoke. The image here is that our good thoughts, our thoughts of love, our thoughts, our prayers, right inside our own heads and our hearts, are rising up like this wonderful incense. And the incense, and this is a very ancient way of understanding God, but The idea in the ancient world was that God dwelt in heaven above and that the smoke rose. And as the smoke rose, the gods, because most of these civilizations at those times were polytheistic, the Hebrews were monotheistic, but they would sense the smoke of the prayers and they would come down. And so the incense, as in the old hymn, We Three Kings of Orient are, incense draws a deity nigh. Incense draws a deity nigh. Incense brings the God down to earth. So there is the incense rising with the prayers of the saints from the hand of the angel before God. And then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, voices, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Such is the nature of life on earth. As long as there has been an earth, it has quaked in various places at various times. But for ancient people who knew not how the earth went together or what it was, these earthquakes were terrifying. In fact, if you've ever been in an earthquake, they shake you up pretty good. The more severe the earthquake, the more severe the upset. And of course, big earthquakes are just unbelievable disasters. But when earthquakes happen, boy, they do get our attention. Flashes of lightning. Lightning is a phenomenally powerful natural phenomenon. We all know lightning is dangerous. It's you have to be careful with lightning. You really do. The rules they teach you with lightning, follow them. Don't play with, don't stay out on the soccer field when there's lightning. You just don't do that. When the lightning is happening, you go inside. Period. End of discussion. Not maybe, not. Hear the lightning, hear the thunder, see the lightning, hear the thunder, inside you go. It's the rule, and there's a reason for that, right? But what it's saying here is it's speaking of the power of natural destruction. The power of natural destruction. And so there are peals of thunder, voices, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the seven angels who had the seven trumpets made ready to blow them. We had silence in heaven. Now they're ready to blow their horns. Anticipation. In a sense, this chapter is representing the essence of anxiety, because all the trouble is about to happen. Hasn't happened yet, but it's about to happen. Oh, what will happen tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that? The anticipation of trouble. All by itself, you know that, if I could stop here just for a second, the anticipation of trouble is usually worse than the trouble itself. They could easily just say, okay, here came an earthquake, boom, 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 boom. Here came lightning, here comes the hail. Okay, when that happens, what do? We deal with it. One way or the other, we deal with it. But when we're anticipating it, we can't deal with it. All you can do when you anticipate it is worry about it. And when you worry about it, all it's doing is getting you upset. But that's human nature. And what this text is doing is speaking to us about the order of God that is inside the chaos of experience. The order of God inside the chaos of experience. The first angel, I'm in verse 7. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, which fell on the earth, and a third of the earth was burnt up, and a third of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burned up. Notice the mixture. Notice the formula. There followed hail and fire mixed with blood. Okay, it's a formula of perfect, unmitigated horror. When I read this, I think of some of the terrible things that have happened in the world. I think of some of the awful things that happened during World War II. I think of some of the horrible things that have happened in some various places over time. We human beings can make the worst things happen. We really can have some tough experiences. And this is what John is representing here. Hail, fire, blood, just destruction. Absolute, unmitigated destruction. A third of the earth was burned up and a third of the trees. And this vision is a vision of thirds. And we're going to have thirds and thirds and thirds and thirds. And the thirds, there is a proportionality here in John's vision that every disaster that happens in an area, and then there's where it doesn't happen. It happens here, but not there. It happens there, but not over here. It happens over here, but not back there. That there are limits. And in faith, what this vision is doing is calling us to recognize the limits of catastrophe. Calling us to see and to know that the horrible situation that we're going through is limited. That there are limits to what we're going to endure. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. A nightmare image. A nightmare image of a great burning stone falling into the sea. And what does that mean? And what does that do? And you know, the obvious representation of celestial impact events, of something falling from the sky and striking the ocean. These are dream images. These are nightmare images. They're images that show us the vulnerability of our existence. Okay, this is about vulnerability and threat, and how we feel as vulnerable people, and the unforeseen nature of chaotic destruction just coming out of the sky. Whoosh, there you go. But it's always limited. And it's always, as I said earlier, it is encasing and encompassing the love of God. And that's a faith matter. Faith directs our attention to what is not destroyed. Destruction is everywhere. Faith directs our attention to what is not destroyed, or what is being created by what is being destroyed. Because when stuff is destroyed, other stuff is created. So, second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Again, the formula of thirds. A third, a third, a third, a third. The third part of everything is destroyed. And so it will be. See anything at all, and it will change in time. It will be destroyed. The rule of thirds. And notice the way John has this structured. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel blew his trumpet. Third trumpet. Third destruction. This repeated formula of thirds. And a great star fell from heaven. Kind of building on the previous image of the mountain burning with fire falling into the sea. Now we have this third star falling from the heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water. And the name of the star. Now this is interesting to me in verse 11. Kaito namatu asteros, and the name of the star is said to be Apsinthos. Apsinthon. And it came, and a third of the waters became Apsinthon. Now, as it came to be translated, Apsinthon is a really difficult word to translate. Look it up in the Greek lexicon. And the Greek lexicon, it's really funny to me. You look it up in the Greek lexicon, and the authors of the Greek lexicon say, we don't know what that means. We don't really know what that word means, because there is no other word that it is similar to. So we got to do a little more in-depth word study on Apsinthon. And what happened with this was that the authors, the translators of the King James Bible, the early translation into English, translated it as wormwood. And wormwood is a particularly bitter, toxic kind of spice. Basically, it is like an essence of bitterness, and bitterness is what is being really talked about that here. And I'll just read you verses 10 and 11. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch. It fell on a third of the rivers and on the fountains of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the water because it was made bitter. So the wormwood is simply the waters of bitterness. So, catastrophe. What have we seen here so far? We've seen hail coming from the sky. We've seen blood falling from the sky. We've seen fire falling from the sky. We've seen a third of the earth burned up, and we've seen all of these catastrophes of thirds, and it is the water of bitterness. What is the result of catastrophe? Bitterness. How bitter we become over the failures of our lives. Things go wrong for us. Things don't work out the way we had hoped that they would. Our expectations are not met. Our demands are ignored. Our desires go unrequited. We can easily become very bitter. Bitterness of just simply not liking the way things have shook out, the way things have happened, what reality has brought our way, not liking it. Bitterness. And that's what the wormwood is. Widespread human social bitterness. And what does the bitterness come from? The bitterness comes from whatever the catastrophe was that took a third of what we liked. You see, when we are in that third that is destroyed, you see, when that third is our political thing, or that third is our economic thing, or that third is our relationship thing, or our family thing, or our business thing, or our financial thing, or our physical health. Whenever we get caught up in the destruction, bitterness results. And that's what's being said here about Wormwood. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light was darkened, and a third of the day was kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. See, the very essence of everything is caught up in the third formula of destruction. A third of this, a third of this, a third of this, a third of this. And I love the way this goes, because it's like a third of the day was kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. But the night doesn't really shine, but a third of it, so what does it say? It says that a third of the night just wasn't what a night was supposed to be. That night is going to be one heck of a lousy night. You know, and it's so human. What's the worst night you ever went through? You know, what was the worst day? What was the worst thing? How bad was it? Oh, it was so bad, you know, and things get worse, and they get worse, and this happens, and this happens. And so, you know, that night failed. That night was, we just had a minor electronic failure as I was speaking. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light was darkened. In other words, the light becomes one third dark. A third of the day was kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. So presumably the sun and the moon are darkened by a third. Now remember what I said earlier about the proportionality of tribulation. Tribulation is always proportional. I can be having tribulation, I can be miserable, I can be sick, I can be failing, I can be having all this trouble, but you could be doing fine. You could be having trouble, but this person over here is doing fine, because these troubles, these failures are always proportional. And that's what this text is speaking of, the proportionality of tribulation. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew in mid-heaven. There's a scripture in the Gospels where Jesus says, where the dead body is gathered, there the eagles will gather. Eagle and vulture are the same in the ancient world. There was no distinction between a vulture and an eagle. They were just big birds that ate the dead. That's what they were. And so there's this eagle crying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, at the blasts of the other trumpets, which the three angels are about to blow." So when things get bad, what might happen? They might get worse. You know, just when you thought things were bad enough, they get worse. And all this is doing is just helping us to see and to understand that in the context of catastrophe of whatever form, the love of God is triumphant. In the catastrophes of chaos, there exists a fractal order, which is the order of God. And our ability to transcend means to kind of see through it, to look through it, to rise above it, to go beyond it, to make it through victoriously and in faith and in joy, is contingent on our ability to understand that our failure and catastrophe and grief and sorrow is not inclusive of the entire universe. The universe is going to go on. It's going to go on. It's going to be what it's going to be. We may suffer this or that, but if we can just not be so fixated on our own individual suffering and look more at the larger picture, we can understand that the love of God is going through all of the trouble and all of the hardship that we could ever experience. And that takes us to the end of chapter 8. So we're going to pick up in 2 weeks with, well, no, this will be 1 week because this will be released in a week. We will pick up, and we've got a total of 22 chapters to read. And so there are about 13 chapters left to read here, or so, 14 chapters. And yes, 14 chapters to go. And it's always interesting to me because we have times of peace and order and blessing and joy, and then we have times of conflict and disorder and curses and sorrow. And one follows the other, follows the other, follows the other. But if we can hold our faith in the triumphant goodness of God, we'll make it through whatever we need to make it through. So keep the faith. That's the message of the book of Revelation. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Pastor Steve, and you can email me, please do, at pastorsteve969@gmail.com. I'll get back to you, let you know, answer your email. We also have Twitter. You can tweet me, and I think I know how to read those. And Instagram, you can message me that way. Share pictures if you want. And I'm on Clubhouse as well. We will continue to keep in touch. Remember, services, 9:30, Nahala Presbyterian Church, Route 258, south of Scotland Neck, North Carolina. 11 o'clock service at Cobb Memorial Presbyterian Church in Tarboro. Those are the two services where I preach. And we have a really good, several really good supply preachers who come down and fill the pulpit at Pine Tops. You're welcome at any of those services. And we look forward to seeing you and serving your needs for pastoral ministry in these amazing times in which we live. So let's have a quick closing prayer. Lord, I thank you for this time. I thank you for this ability, this time that we have, this blessing to be able to study and read your word. Bless all readers of your word, Lord. Bless those in wherever they are, all your children in faith, Heavenly Father, all of us, wherever we are, we just ask your blessings, and we ask your blessings in the faith, in the power of the name of Jesus. In his name, amen. And so be blessed, and I'll see you next week.